If you'd like to ask a question during that time, please press star followed by number 1. Today's conference is being recorded. Any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn over the meeting to Kadeen Reese. You may begin.
Thank you, Angela. And thank you for joining us today to discuss how to navigate data.census.gov. Since we're creating data.census.gov in an agile development fashion, we conduct a webinar about every 2 months to show you our progress and to highlight the latest features from the last development. But for this webinar, we aren't focusing on any one feature, but how to navigate the site as it is now in preparation for our releases later this month of the 2017 Economic Census and the 2018 American Community Survey one-year data. So as you're aware, this continues to be a developing site and will continue to develop and change in the next few years. So the purpose of this webinar is to prepare you for those data releases using the site as it is right now. So just a quick outline. We're just going to go over some background information on data.census.gov and why we're doing it, as well as a current snapshot of what the site is currently, and then some how-tos, how to use data.census.gov and some slides, and then showing you through the live demo. And then also how to overcome some roadblocks, some things that the functionality that we'll have that's different, and also functionality that we won't have that maybe you might be used to, and some workarounds from there. And then finally followed up with some Q&A. All right. So the Census Bureau is investing in this huge shift in how data users access data by streamlining this accessibility. So data users will be able to search for all data and digital content available from the Census Bureau in one place. So right now, we're still building the site, so the platform along with our new data releases are being previewed on data.census.gov. But in the next year or so, we will integrate this new platform with census.gov so that all data will be accessible off the census.gov search. So that's what the end goal is as far as our vision for the future of dissemination at the Census Bureau. So why are we doing this? So we have overwhelming feedback from our data user community that told us that people are unable to find the data they're looking for on census.gov, and mostly because our data reside in various tools that we've created to release data in different ways, like tables and maps and data visualizations and applications. Our customers tell us that they love the functionality of these tools, but the drawback is that not all data are available in the tools, and unless you're aware of them, like American Fact Finder or Census Business Builder, unless you're aware of them, these tools can sometimes be hard to find if you don't know where you're looking. So we're working to take the best of these tools and apply that functionality to the platform so that all applicable data will have this functionality all accessible through the search bar. And this will also help efficiencies with one platform meeting one delivery, and it reduces the resources for dissemination on our end. And then finally, this platform does provide a greater access to the Census API, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. So as a developing site, we are developing 2 and 2-month increments, and while you may actively be using the site, we are also having new data releases. We understand that this may be difficult because it is an ever-changing site, but soon things won't change as much, and we'll finalize that basic functionality and start working on more advanced needs. And all of this is possible by the agile process of software development. This process is kind of a build, and it release for feedback, gather that feedback, redefine based on the feedback, and then build again. So we don't want to build for several years. We don't want to release it to you and then hear that you don't like it. Even though this is a difficult process, we have gotten a lot of positive responses that people really like to have a hand in creating this dissemination system, and we do really appreciate your engagement. So one of the bigger questions that we get from data users, particularly those that are familiar with American Fact Finder or AFF, is why can't you do this and build this platform on AFF? It's a more refined site. It's completed, it's finished, it has the functionality that data users are now used to. And the answer is that ASF really is a great dissemination system, but our vision for the future of census data is based on the API. So the API allows for cells of data to be pulled individually as a table or as a group of variables, where ASF is solely table-based. So when someone searched for the average commute for a geography, ASF returned a several hundred-line table. So the API does allow for one single commuting estimate to be returned, as well as a table, as well as you can also look across geographies and so on. So it's the flexibility of the API that's the real power and the real basis of what we're working on. So if you look at the diagram, you can see that the API is the heart of the platform. So you're utilizing the data, metadata, and geospatial services, and then releasing those data and services through census.gov in a typical tables, but also through apps and data visualizations. And as a reminder, since we're still developing the platform and not ready to integrate with census.gov, the previous site is data.census.gov. The Census Bureau hosts the API not only for ourselves, but also for third-party customers who pull our data in their own applications and their own dashboards. That's that green part at the very top of the diagram. So with the API being the foundation of this new dissemination plan, we are working to reach more developers and to make using the API easier for all of our users. So I think most of you are aware of how much data the Census Bureau not only currently releases, but past data for what was already been produced. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of the scale of our undertaking, not only to transition our data from American Fact Finder, but other methods of dissemination. But we're also working to incorporate more data and more content. We know we aren't finished, and we know we have a lot of work left to do, but using this agile process of short spurts of building, review, and comments, we hope to get to the data users, to get things with the data users who really are regular, kind of a customer-driven experience. All right, so our current snapshot. So the key to using the development site is to know where we are and what is available. So what we have here is our kind of a matrix of what data are available. So if you just quickly look, not all of the data are available currently. Please look at this periodically. We do have an FAQ. We'll show you later where it's located, so you can see as things are being added and updated where we are, because we don't want you to inadvertently try to access data that isn't there, only because it frustrates you and it frustrates users when they're trying to find something and they can't, and they spend a lot of time looking for something that's just not there. So we are focusing on migrating the data from American Fact Finder to the Census API and then making available on data.census.gov. We expect that this spring 2020 that we will finish this migration, and migrating the data from AFF to our Census API is our primary focus because we do need to free up those resources devoted to AFF. We can only maintain one dissemination system, not two. So please bear with us, as most of our focus is on the data and functionality available in AFF and finding ways to build it into this platform. So we hope to pivot to focusing on other requests you've made, such as table builders or user-defined geographies, or even focus more on the developer's experience. But right now our focus is to shut down this one system and stand up the other. So for our milestones, this summer we saw our first release exclusively on data.census.gov with the 2017 non-employers data. In June, we did stop releasing new data on AFF and exclusively release those data that were on AFF on data.census.gov. So in the next couple of weeks, we will see the release of the 2017 economic census and the 2018 American Community Survey one-year data. So just as a reminder, ACS is a little different this year. So the release in September will be for just detailed tables and data profiles. And then on October 17th, we'll have the selected population profiles, comparison profiles, and subject tables released. So of those, and then we're also working on the 5-year in December. So after all of the data are migrated, looking at spring 2020, we expect to start being able to shut and decommission American Fact Finder. We'll give you some updates and let you know where that is, but right now we're looking at spring 2020. All right. So with that, I want to start by highlighting some of our main features in data.census.gov and then show you how to use the live site from there. So the first step is to search for your data. So right now, as you can see, there are 2 ways to search. So you have a single search, which is a free-form search box, and then an advanced search, which is more of a step-by-step filtering experience where you select desired checkboxes. And you can get many search results with either option, but the more complex searches should be limited to the advanced search. So if you're unsure, it's a good idea to just go ahead and start by trying to use your search in the single search box. And if you don't quickly find what you're looking for, go ahead and switch to the advanced search. So using the single search for keyword searches by topics and then a geography is an excellent way of being able to use the single search. We don't want you to be afraid of it, so we want to give you a little bit of some guidelines on good ways to get some great search results just using that free-form text search. So one is a single topic by single geography. So in this case, we use commuting in Salt Lake City. And you can also use table IDs. We know a lot of you who are bigger users of our data products, that you know your table IDs, and those are how you search for things. We know that that was being done in AFF, so we wanted to have that functionality here as well. So being able to search by a table ID and then also a geography is a great way. And then under that, you can also look at what's called like a table prefix or those products. So in AFF, things like the data profiles, they use abbreviations of DP. So putting in something like DP in Salt Lake City, or ST for subject tables, or DT for detailed tables, those are some of those shorthand things that were done in AFF, and we went ahead and mimicked those because we know that they are used greatly by the data users. So again, some really easy ways of using search. And then for the economic data, if you can look at something like gas stations, an industry like gas stations, and then in Utah by geography, get some great results, as well as actually putting in a NAICS. If you wanted to put 447 in Utah, you get some results as well. All right, so now more advanced searches are like multiple geographies, and those complex geographies like tracts or blocks are great ways to use advanced search. Also components like urban and rural, and also those collections of geographies like all counties in Utah are great ways to do it. Multiple topics or cross tabulations are a great thing to be able to use in the advanced search. And then also if you specifically want to use a specific program or survey or even type of product, go ahead and use the advanced search as well. And then finally, right now it's the only way of getting our detailed population groups. There's like SO201, which is from the ACS. That will be released in mid-October, but that's where it gives you the characteristics of those detailed populations of race, tribal groupings, Hispanic origin, ancestry, and the foreign-born groups. So here's an example of using the advanced search. So we used commuting by earnings in 2017. There's a lot going on. It's very busy in this, but this is just kind of trying to show you how to use the guided search. So we selected a year specific. We selected both of those topics, commuting and earnings, and then the geographies. We were looking at Salt Lake City, Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, Utah, and also the Salt Lake metro area. Also, it could be done through economic data. We talked about you being able to type in gas stations in Utah, but then you can also use the advanced search. If you go under the filters where it says codes, you can select the industry codes, which we commonly refer to as NAICS. And then from there, go down to 44 to 45, which are the retail trade. Then choosing the gasoline stations at 447, and then just drill down further until you get to the gasoline stations with convenience stores. Then we went ahead and chose Utah and then pulled up the table from there. All right, another way of using data.census.gov that's important to know is the All Results page. So once you've searched, you get a page with different types of data displays, like in the middle, this single estimate, or what we consider to be our feature results. So not all topics have feature results, but a few of the main ones, like commuting and the average commute in minutes, are available. And also you see all of the different ways that commuting estimates are available, so that you have tables as well as maps. You have web pages for those press releases and survey methodology information about that are available on census.gov's web pages. And then on the far right, you also see the geography profile, which has high-level estimates of that geo. In this case, it would be the Salt Lake City profile. So to locate that geography profile, you have a couple of ways of doing this. When you're in the single search bar, if you're just typing in a geography, one of the pop-ups will come up, and you're able to click on it from there. Or in that All Results page on the far right, in a dark blue box, you can click on that, and from there it gives you the kind of high-level estimates of that geography. Just please remember that this isn't available for all of our summary levels. Right now we're just looking at, there's one for the U.S., as well as all states, all counties, and then cities and towns, what we like to call places. So let's next look on how to customize a table. So right now when you pull up a table in the table display, you can click on the box that says Customize Table. That's in the upper right-hand corner and allows for that customization option. And some of the things that you customize it are from basic things from like pulling up a table note to pulling up that faceted filtering, which allows you to add additional geographies, change the year, even change the table if you need to, taking out the margin of error if that statistical significance is available, and then also to download, and gives you the option to download as well as a link to the FTP site under More Data. Now specifically, download, we have two formats of ways of downloading right now. So one, you use the data in the table display that comes in, and that's under the customization where you click on download, or you can get it directly from the table, and it's that far left where it says to download, and you click on the table. But what it does return is a CSV file, so it's a flat file with each geography having its own row. We know that people do like to definitely need a CSV for some people, but then some other people really want more of a table display. So until we're able to build in that option, we have a second option, which is what we call an export to Excel. So while you're on the table, you can right-click, click on Export Table, and then Export to Excel. It doesn't give you 100%. It doesn't give you all of the notes and that type of thing, but it does give you the labels, the headers, as well as the data within there. All right. So this is also showing you how to click on the data notes. That's very important, and it's especially because it kind of documents the explanation of the symbols that are in the table, gives you the data source and other noted information. And the other thing I wanted to highlight was that more data that we talked about. That's a link to the FTP site. It's not on our platform, but it's just trying to link all of the different ways of accessing the data together. So mapping the data is the next thing we wanted to talk about. And from there, once you get on the mapping display, for here it's all states, the public transportation, excluding taxi cab estimate. And then you can select your table. If you wanted to change that, you could change your variable from there. And you can add or remove geographies and make sure that you can change the geography or the variable within the map view instead of having to go back into the table. So another thing we wanted to show you is you can create a table view of the single estimates you mapped. Instead of having to, you could switch to the full table view as it's produced and released by the Census Bureau, or you can have a map view of the individual estimates you can be clicking on, or you can gather using the map feature several of the geographies, or you can put in something like one of our collections of data. And a great example is all counties in Utah. And then from there, you can then click on at the bottom left where it says View Table, and that pulls up the individual table. So this View Table does allow what we consider to be kind of a create your own geographic comparison table. It is similar to the functionality of AFF, but different in the fact that it's more dynamic. The AFF were static. There was only a handful of estimates, and this allows you to choose any of the variables that are available in a table. Something else that's very, very important is especially with a developing site and having data being released from there, is how to stay connected with us. One of our most notable changes is to update our landing page to provide some much needed educational materials and resource links. And also, again, how you can stay connected and provide feedback that really does fuel this development. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. It really is what we are here for. All right. And from here, we have our live demo. If you give me 1 second and let me switch over. All right. Live demo. So here we are at data.census.gov. And I wanted to show you on the live site some of those things that we outlined and showed you before. So you have, again, you have two options when you first come, and you have the single search bar right here, which is that open text search, and then you also have advanced search, which is more of that faceted filtering or those drop downs available. But I'm going to show you some of the things that you can get through the single search. One we talked about was being able to put a topic. So I'm going to put commuting and then Salt Lake City. Click enter, and it takes you to that all results page that we talked about with the same things, where it has this featured result right here, as well as the profile on the right for Salt Lake City, and then tabs either at the top you can tab over, or you can scroll down to the maps to find different ways of getting the data. So from here you can go to the table from there or back. So wanted to show you that. Great way, just as a little note, to clear everything is to click on the logo. You can also clear it by going to the URL and pressing enter as well. So come back. Wanted to make sure that one of the things we hear all the time about is making sure that you can use the table ID and be able to type that in. So yes, you can do that. Let's say that somebody's looking for this commuting subject table, so they type in SO801, and then let's do Salt Lake City. Click enter, and it takes you to the all results page. One of that is that in your mind or people's mind, they might think, well, I'm saying SO801, that must mean I want to go to the table. Let's go to the table view, and you can. It's just an extra click. But this also allows for other functionality like the mapping functionality that's available too. So that's why we don't go directly there. But here's the table right here. From there, a couple of things to note is if you're looking at these ellipses, and two things you can, tables very much like Excel, in that you can expand the columns, or you can also have a hover where it shows you what that whole title was. Also going in here, if you'd like to, there's two things before we get into the customization, but if you'd like to change to maybe the 5-year, you can do that, or even to a different year, you can do that. And then you can also go in and filter, and let's just say I wanted to, I have Salt Lake City. Well, let's go ahead and add, let's go ahead and add Utah. Go ahead and add, and there it's been added, and Salt Lake City is still right over there. Okay, so clear that out one more time. Show you those product types and those abbreviations. So let's say that I'm looking at, I'm still interested in Salt Lake City, and I really don't know what estimate I'm looking for, but I'd like to see kind of the breadth of data that are available. That's an excellent way of using the data profiles. If you're looking for just economic, you might type in DPO3 and get that specifically. But if you're just looking for all of them and want to pull all of them, you go ahead and just put DP. And then from there, we'll do Salt Lake City, press enter. And then you can pull up this first one, which is DPO2, and on the left-hand side, you'll see the rest of them, the DPO3, 4, and 5 that are available. Okay. And then wanted to show you how you can also do this with the econ data. We talked about looking at retail trade and looking at gas stations. And let's do Utah. And pulling up the data. One interesting thing that you can do when you pull up this data is that they have cell level notes. So gas stations, let's find out exactly how it's defined by the industry. So you can click on those things. Either the NAICS code right here will give you the same information as the meaning of the 2017 NAICS column does as well. So we can clear that. And then we can also do it through, get it the same results through typing in portion of the NAICS. Click on the table. And here you go. You have non-employer, but it also allows for the county business pattern data to be pulled up however you're interested. All right, so I'm going to clear that out and go back. So that's really a great way of what we consider to be some real quick wins that you can get from the single search bar. In many, many cases from the data users that we know, this hits the mark in a lot of things that they need. So please check that out, and hopefully that'll help make things a little bit easier for you. So if you have more complicated things or just can't find what you're looking for, go ahead and click on that advanced search. Again, the advanced search is that drop-down feature. And we wanted to show it to you for things that are a little bit more complicated, like topics or specific geographies we talked about. So I'm going to do multiple topics. So I'm going to look at, I'm still looking at commuting. So I'm going to click on commuting and click on that checkbox. And then I'm going to do income and poverty. And then it goes down to income and earnings. And then click on earnings and individuals. So if you note down here where it says selected filters, you can see what's being populated. Very similar to AFF when they had its basket of topics so that you knew what you were applying to for when you're looking at your tables. So then I'm going to look at some geographies. So since I'm going to be looking at some geographies that could be year specific, I'm going to go ahead and choose 2017. Obviously, you can choose different years, but I want to make sure I'm getting the correct vintage of my geography when I'm looking for it. So from here, there's two different ways to look at things. So from the geography, we have summary levels, which some people are very much wedded to. They know that 050 is their county. They also know which metro, the MSA they use, and the 300s, and some people don't. So we want to give you that option of kind of more of a guided tour, which is without the summary levels, and then allowing for the codes if you know of a certain code that you use, and we want to make sure that you're able to use it from there. So I'm going to go down to place level. I use 160, so I want to make sure that I click on that. And then from there, I'm going to go to Utah, and I'm going to slide down to Salt Lake City. There we go. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to take off the numbers because the rest I want more of a guided. So here's the metropolitan statistical area or micropolitan statistical area. I don't have a specific one. I just want to have the one that's most commonly used. So I'm going to click on that one. Allows you to go in. I'm going to put in Salt Lake, and it gives me the Salt Lake City, Utah metro area. I'm going to click on that, and as you can see, the selected filters is being populated as we speak. As we're clicking, I'm also going to go ahead and add my county, like the county for Salt Lake City. Scroll down to Utah. And scroll down to Salt Lake County, add that one. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the state. So let's go to Utah. And all of this, and if you click on more, there's too many, you can see it as a search query and also as these individual chips that you can go through and take them out. Let's say I don't really need Utah, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove it from there. And I'm going to press search. And then I'm going to go ahead and go into the table, and I'm looking in its means of transportation to work by workers' earnings in the past 12 months. Looking at this, it kind of gives you distributions of earnings, but I'm looking on the left-hand side, and it looks like I'd rather use median. So B08121 is the second one, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. That might be a little bit better than what I'm interested in, some straight medians for the different means of transportation. This is definitely what I'm looking for. So from here, I want to show you a couple of ways that you can look. We've talked about how you could change the product. You can go to 5-year, but if you noticed before, when we clicked on product, when we were doing those single searches, you had all of the different years for 1 and 5-year. But if you remember when we were in the advanced search, we clicked on just 2017. So that's why you're only seeing 1 and 5-year. But I can switch and go to 5-year, go back, and then I'll show you how to do the year in just 1 second. You can go to the filter, or you could do a download. Right here you can do a download and multiple downloads right here. Go ahead and do 2 of the tables. Download selected. And you see, I can choose, I'm not so interested in the 5-year, I really want the 1 year. I'll go ahead and ask for both of those tables. It's preparing my files, so I download now. It's on the bottom left, so I'm going to click on that. And here we go. And here's the CSV file that we talked about, this flat file that every geography is given a line, so it goes across. So that's how that's being available. And it's by each data set, so there's a couple of them, since I asked for a couple of them available. So I wanted to make sure I showed you that. Also, so once we've done that, let me close the download. Then we can go to Customize. So we talked about how the Customize has a few things that are available. So one, these, first of all, the data notes right here. So that's very important for understanding the explanation of the symbols that you may receive in the table, but also how the data were collected in some cases, or anything that the data providers need you to know when using these estimates. And then the most importantly, I think, is the source statement, which says 2017 American Community Survey 1-year estimates. So those are available. These next few ones with the three geographies, any of those pull up that advanced search, those faceted filters. Let's go ahead. We took off Utah. Let's go ahead and add it back to our table. Take that out, and you'll see that Utah has been added. You can also filter or hide things. You could transpose the table if you're interested in flipping the axis around. You can also take out the margins of error if you'd like. And then it goes down to the download again. And this is just the single before. On the table view, you have a single, but when you're looking at the array of tables, you can choose multiple. So different ways of being able to access that. One other thing I wanted to show you with the download, now that we're in the table, is that export to Excel. So when you're in the table, if you right-click, down here it says Export Table, do Export to Excel, and pull that up. That's the one that I had before. Oops. And this is what you have. So it's not the same as how things were done in a PDF or even the table display for Excel that was available in AFF, but this is hopefully trying to get for people that need something to be printed out and how that functionality can be built. So hopefully this is something that you can use. It does give you the labels as well as the column headers are available from there. So that's one way of doing it. Let me shut this. Don't save. And then we go here. You can also cut and paste. If you just want a portion of the table, you can go ahead and just pull them from here. Copy cells, pull up an Excel, and then from here, just paste. So it only pulls up which you have, but this is definitely a functionality that people have asked for that they like when they like to be able to manipulate the data themselves. Okay, so now that we've talked about download and shown you how to do that, and let me click on this More Data button. This is for the data that are available in the FTP sites from the data providers. So if you continue to the site, this is where it sends you so that it's one single access point where you're able to find things while you're on the table. And then you can also look at the maps. This is just showing Utah. And then from here, being able to manipulate the table and the data from here. So I wanted to show you a few things from here. One great way of using the data is to do commuting again, and let's do all counties in Utah. So this pulls up DPO3. I do like that subject table of SO801, so I'm going to click on that instead. I'm going to go over and you look that it's 2017 5-year data, and that's because a lot of the table, or a lot of the counties in Utah do not have 1-year estimates because they don't meet that population threshold of 65,000. So you could go in and change it to 1 year. See, there's a lot of missing data there, so default to 5-year. Again, you can change and do whatever you want from there. It also gives you the first line of the table. So if you go in, you go kind of peruse what estimates you're looking for and what you're interested in. I'm going to go down and look for mean travel time to work in minutes and pull that up, and you're able to look at the data from there. So now I want to go in and customize the table, and this is where, so our send feedback button normally doesn't get in the way, but in situations like this it does, so we have the little X that you can exit out. Please don't forget to use the subsite.feedback@census.gov with all of your comments before you close it out, but once it's closed, you can then see the view table. Go ahead and click on that. And that's our kind of on-the-fly geographic comparison table. So not only can you click on 4 or 5 different geographies and then get a table from there, but this functionality allows you to see a geography across the estimates across the geographies. So this is how this is. You can go to the full table if you'd like to. You can change the legend and move things around from there. From here you can change the color palette, the data classes, the breaks can go from a natural breaks to a quantile or equal interval. All of those things you can do. But I think the most important thing here is that you can change the year or the data set, but then here you can also change the variable, which is quite important. All right. So I'm going to go back over here. I wanted to look at advanced search really quickly and show you the econ data that allows you to go to codes. So we can go through NAICS, the industry. I don't know my NAICS codes very well, but I do know that I was interested in retail trade, and from there it can it walks you through. There's gasoline stations, and then you can just go on and on and on from there. So from there, I'm going to do a geography. I'm going to do state, Utah, and then search. Pulls up our table that we've had before. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you on the how-to and how to find things. But it's also very important to make sure that you know about these outreach materials. So if you have questions, we have some questions that we have available on our Ask Census on census.gov, but we have some easy ways of accessing them right here. So what is data.census.gov? Be able to read more about it, see some very familiar visualizations. And then on the left-hand side under data.census.gov, it shows you all of the different ones that are available. You can go to general questions right here, Lookup. There's different ones that you can choose from there. On the main page, we had a few. We also have one that I wanted to highlight, the how do I access data by race, Hispanic origin, ancestry, or country of birth. This is where it shows you how to navigate basic race data with that detailed population data that will be available in mid-October from the American Community Survey, what we call the SPPs, the Selected Population Profiles. So this is kind of some how-to. We'll have some more information as we get closer to that release. But if you're interested in looking at it before then, please check these FAQs for information on how to access it. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to let us know. Also under release notes, we have our full release notes. That's a PDF that's attached, and it has the FAQs available here, and it also has information on our features, our latest features, latest table enhancements, also information on that more data available. We talked about that table that lets you know the latest data that are available. It's important to look there. And then finally, under the Stay Connected, we want to make sure that you know how to use the site. We have webinars fairly regularly. We have a link right here to a webinar that we've had before. If you'd like one more recently, you can click on this recorded webinars, and then you can go down and see the August webinar. In a couple of days, you'll see the webinar, this webinar that we're in right now, be available. And then we also have something under here called tutorials. This is where we have our data gems, which are how-to videos that are kind of quick and easy ways of looking at information about census data, and in our case, more information about data.census.gov. We have a few that are coming out, one that's available right now, which is more information on those geo profiles, so please check those out. Tell us what you think of those. We know we want to prepare you for those releases that are happening in the next couple of weeks, but we still definitely want to hear your feedback and how we can make your experience better. So please go to cedsci.feedback@census.gov and let us know what you think. All right, so from here, let me go ahead and finish the webinar, pick up where we were, where we left off. Okay, and then, oops, no, that's not what I want. Here we go. All right. So a few things I wanted to go over, what we call overcoming roadblocks. It's when you have functionality or things you're used to, specifically from maybe American Fact Finder, that you're used to how you access data there, and it's not necessarily the same in data.census.gov. So we wanted to kind of highlight some of those, talk about that functionality that's not available, and some workarounds. So the first one is those collections of geographies. So we are preparing for the ACS 5-year release and 5-year. Most of those collections of geographies are most important for the 5-year release. We're working on those to be able to easily grab things like all tracts in a state. But until we have those, we just have a handful right now. We have all counties in a state, all places in a state, those few things. But until we have all of those and really are ready for our 2018 5-year release in December, here's some ways to kind of go around that. So one is to use the map on data.census.gov that we had. You can individually select the geographies or the small group or small groupings. You could also use the FTP site or the API as a workaround. And then if it's not the latest 2018 ACS data, you can go to American Fact Finder to get those collections of data and to be able to use them in those easy checkboxes. But please know we are working on including all of those for the 5-year when it's really necessary. So the next is that print functionality and the PDF downloads. We talked about that, that we don't have the PDF downloads, but we have a few workarounds. We hope hit the mark about what you need, and if they don't, please let us know. The main thing is to be able to right-click and to view or print the data. And you can also copy and paste cells as well as the header. And then that export to Excel, you can export small tables with less than 400 rows by 400 columns. In most cases, that hits the mark for most people. And then you can also print from Excel and then convert to a PDF from there. So it's some of the workarounds. It doesn't hit the mark for everybody, but hopefully it's a way to get most of what you need while we're still building the site. The other thing is the address lookup. We know that that's very, very popular on American Fact Finder, using the address tab in the geography sections under advanced search. You can still do that going into ASF, but then you can also go into the Census Geocoder. We have a link there, and we also have an FAQ that's available and kind of walk you through how to use the geocoder from that. Also, downloading the Shapefile downloads. You have multiple options for those download the shapefiles. Geography has some resources using the Tiger Line Shapefiles web interface, and we also have an FAQ about that. And then you also have shapefiles for all geographic areas and using the FTP site. There's also an educational brochure on downloading the Tiger Line shapefiles. And again, you can use American Fact Finder as a resource to download options from 2018 and prior years. So some of the functionality that's different than how it was previously on things like American Fact Finder. One is what we've talked about, the geographic comparison tables and also the ranking table. So for first, the geographic comparison tables that data.census.gov is offering a different way. It's not in a static table format. It does offer more flexibility. You can access it through the map where you can choose any of the estimates and set the geographies. So we think that the functionality is much better in this. So please check it out and let us know what you think. Once you've mapped that out, you can click on the View Table in the left panel of the Customize Map view. As for ranking tables, they will not be released on data.census.gov, but you can download the ACS ranking tables from the FTP site. This is new for the 2018 ACS one-year release. And there's a link right there that gives you some more information. Topic hierarchy. The topic hierarchy has changed. Please familiarize yourself with the new topic layout, because where you think something may be available, it's not. The reason we've had to make some changes to our topics hierarchy is because Census.gov had its own topic hierarchy, and American Fact Finder had a different one. We needed to merge this because, remember, eventually this platform will take over, will be merged with Census.gov. So we need to make sure that all of the topics are aligned. So this is showing you some of the race and ethnicity data, because before in American Fact Finder you had basic race and then you had detailed race. This is all combined into one, and different ways of accessing that. So race and ethnicity, you can find American Indian, Alaska Native information, but ancestry is on population and people, as is the foreign born and the country of birth information. So when you, we are working on our downloads that we've talked a little bit about, but we're in the process of trying to correct some problems with that. You do get the downloads failed at times. Some ways around that, if you've experienced that, kind of break up your download into smaller pieces, maybe using fewer geographies, fewer tables, maybe a smaller table if necessary. show the detail table instead of the subject table if that's necessary. Also, you can download from the FTP site using that More Data or directly through the surveys. And then you can also use our Census Data API. All right. So we know that you have requests and the things that you would like to have included. We hear your feedback. We are just getting a lot of feedback right now, which is expected, but we're trying to get to all of it and process it. So if you haven't heard back from us, you will soon. Please be patient. But we do see, and this is our process of when we do receive feedback, and that's feedback from our email to conferences we've been to telephone calls, as well as webinars and that type of thing. So we receive the feedback, we then validate and prioritize it, we talk to our developers about it, then we get a bigger prioritization of it and when it can be put into the next PI. We don't have a lot of really long-term things. These are really in these 2-month spurts that we have. Then the developer, when it's processed through, they address the issue, and then we do internal testing. It's then released to the public, and then we do the process again. We send it out, we collect feedback, and find out how close we were to the mark. Was this better? Is this what you were talking about that was missing? Do you like this? Is this really getting to what you're interested in? But please keep giving us the feedback coming, because it really does guide the development of our site. And this is just one final call out to that, to let people know that please do go out and check out data.census.gov. Again, this is the site, and this what this walkthrough was the site that you will see for the 2017 economic census release on September 19th, as well as the September 26th release of the American Community Survey 1-year data, just for those detailed tables, and then data profiles, since they broke up the release. But please go in and familiarize yourself and be prepared for those. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at cedsci.feedback@census.gov. And with that, I'll turn this back over to Angela for some question and answer.
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press *1 to record your name clearly. To withdraw your question, you may press *2. Once again, to ask a question, please press * followed by number 1. One moment, please, as we wait for the first question.
Okay, and while we wait, I'm going to show you a couple of things. We have some upcoming webinars that are coming, the 2017 Economic Census First Look, how to access that data using data.census.gov from our colleagues in the Economic Directorate. We'll be putting that on September 12th at 2 p.m. And then also on September 19th, we'll have the 2018 American Community Survey 1-year pre-release webinar, a portion of it being how to access data on data.census.gov. And then this is just some more information on how to stay connected with webinars, tutorials, and feedback.
We do have a few questions on the line. Our first question comes from Patricia. Your line is open.
Hello. I'd just like to know if there is somewhere I can go to print out a hard copy, or will that be emailed to me? That's all I really wanted to know.
Do you mean the webinar?
That's correct.
It will be available on the recorded webinar. Let me check one second.
Our next question comes from Ruby. Your line is open.
I'm sorry. 1 second, real quick. I'm sorry. I was getting information. So the transcript, but the slide deck will be available under the Census Academy with the recorded webinars. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Ruby, your line is open.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I had a question about like the whole filtering system. So with the American Fact Finder, like my department, we do a lot of searches. Like we have like our table numbers, and we're also for the geographies, we select like all of the cities in a particular county, and like the county that we look at, there's like 30 plus cities. So I know like in Fact Finder, there's a way to like save your searches, and then later on you could always load up the searches for like the geographies, and then type in any table and go on from there. With this new website, it looks like yes, you can save the filtered cities by like copying that the link and like saving it, say, on a Word document, but it looks like you can't do that plus type in a table number. So either I would have to type in that link and then go the long way and search for the particular table, or I have to search for the table and then select each city every single time. Now, is that something that will be addressed at the later time?
Yes, it's something that we're looking into. We did have that functionality. I'll have to look in and see if we still have it or if it's going to be put back. If you'll, in the chat, send your information, we'll circle back with you when we get that information. Yeah.
Perfect. And I also noticed, like, with the same thing, like, there was one table I was looking at yesterday. I think it was, like, table B19113. So I looked up the city data for each of those. And then the result, like even when I downloaded it, it was not alphabetized as the data usually is. So it was a little weird for me, but obviously that's a quick fix on my end, but just a little note.
No, thank you. Part of what we've worked on is we've switched databases, and the database that we're using, Oracle, doesn't automatically sort those things.
Okay. Got it. All right, well, thank you.
Definitely something we're looking into, and how we can do a workaround for it. But yes, we've noticed it too. But thank you.
You're welcome. All right, that was all my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, absolutely.
Our next question comes from Jenny. Your line is open.
I'm wondering if all the historic data will be migrated. A lot of times researchers need to compare current and old.
Agreed. So yes, that's part of what we're working on. We're working on first with American Fact Finder and making sure that that historical data, the first step is migrating everything from American Fact Finder into the Census Data API, and then from there we have things released on data.census.gov. But that's what we're working on.
But beyond American Fact Finder, the data beyond that, will that be transferred?
After American Fact Finder, the ultimate goal is that all of our data and historical data will be available through the API. But that's a lot of data, so it's not going to happen overnight. But it's definitely something that is the commitment that we're working on.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Debbie. Your line is open.
Thanks very much. There's a couple of things as I've tried to use the site. One is it's pretty cumbersome right now to be able to look up something like poverty data by age, by race or ethnicity. And the only way we found to do it for a state, say, although I guess it would work for a local area, is we use the C detailed table that has poverty by age by sex, and then add up male and female for, say, under 18, and then we have to go from one table to the next. We have to load in each individual racial group table with those code names for all the tables, and we can eventually pull it together that way. So I just encourage, if there is a less cumbersome way to put together a single table for a state that you could get different age groups by race, that would be very helpful. And then the other thing is, in American Facts Finder, if you sort of go back on the, just use the key to go back one, you can sort of make modifications on what you're asking for. With this, it seems when I try to do that, it throws me out of data.census.gov altogether, and I have to get back in. And am I missing something about the way of, sort of going back one screen to alter what you're asking for?
So two things. I wanted to touch base on the first one you mentioned. So we are still disseminating the same data and the same tables that were available on American Fact Finder. So if it didn't have, if it wasn't in one table and you had to pull different estimates from different tables, that's not going to change with this. We do have hopes that we can have, once we finish with migrating and working with the functionality of AFF, to be able to do more inventive things like, and kind of working with the power of the API of creating your own tables and that type of thing. But we don't have the functionality yet. So, but we hear you about that. The second one about getting kicked out, I haven't experienced that when you get kicked out of the site. I know if you're going back, you can always, if you're trying to get back to the advanced search, you can click down on that top search line, just click on it and it'll show up advanced search, and then that'll take you back to the filters, or you can do a back button to one. But if maybe offline we could talk about exactly what issues you are having to make sure that it's noted if it is a defect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Kimberly. Your line is open.
Hi. I guess my first thing is a comment. So when I try to look at tables, I can't see the whole screen. I don't know if I'm the only one that's had this problem, but like it'll pull up a table, but I can't get to the very bottom of it, and so I can't really scroll left to right. And then I've been sort of playing around with just using the arrow buttons and page up, page down. And so now I was finally able to see the bottom of the table, but now it's kind of stuck there and I can't see the very top of the screen. And I'm using Google Chrome. So I don't know, are there certain browsers that work better with this system?
Definitely Google. Chrome is a great one if you're looking at poverty and going to the poverty table. So if you're scrolling down on the right-hand side, we do have scrolls, but that should take you to the bottom of the table, and then from there being able to. There's not a scroll if you don't have additional columns. Like I don't have a school right now because there isn't anything, but adding additional geographies will put the scroll. So. Maybe that's something that you can leave your information on the chat and we can dig a little deeper.
Sure, yeah, and I can send you screenshots of what I'm looking at.
Okay,
too, if that
that would be a great thing you could send to cedsci.feedback@census.gov.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Catherine. Your line is open.
Hi. When I'm in a table and I select some cells and do copy with headers, I get the column headings, but I'm not getting the row headings.
You mean the labels?
The labels. Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you go into a table and you export the table to Excel, not that one because that was the cut and paste one I did. But it's column B. Gives you at least you have to put them together because they're kind of the hierarchical of them, but putting those together give you the label from there. Are you getting that?
Yeah, I'm sure I could get that, but I was just doing like the cut and paste of a few cells.
Okay, so with the cut and paste, it only pulls what you've pulled, so you'll need to add the labels in your cut and paste. Because the cut and paste is truly just what you have highlighted.
That does say when you copy with headers, I did get, as I said, even if I did not select the geography headings, I got them when I pasted. But I don't get the row labels. But I could copy those if that's
right. That's just the functionality that's there. It's just the cut and paste. But no, you're correct. That is what it's there. And if that's not meeting what you need, which it sounds like it isn't, we can definitely put that down as issues and things that you would like to have fixed.
Okay. And I had another question. I believe your previous caller was Ruby. She said something about saving the selected geographies. And she said there was a way to do that. Can you explain that?
So you can create your calls if you go to how do you save my results or searches. This gives you kind of a step-by-step on how to kind of create the URL is what she was referring to. So you might want to reference that and see if that meets your needs, and if we need, if you have additional questions, please send us an email and we can help you out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question comes from Nathaniel. Your line is open.
Hi, actually, I think you just answered my question with the how do you save search results. One of the features I like in FactFinder was the bookmark tool, but it seems like with data.census.gov you can actually just copy and paste the URL and the URL works, whereas in FactFinder the URL didn't work, if that makes sense. But it looks like
it did. Yeah, you could cut and paste, copy and paste it in FactFinder, and it would just take you to the original table. It wouldn't take you to the geographies. But here, yes, you're right. Your copy and paste in the URL will take you to that exact saved search and table.
Could you put this, the web page you're looking at right now, could you put that in the chat? Because I can't quite see how you got to that page.
Oh, sure. Let me just show you real quick. If you just, oh wait, no, I pressed the wrong logo, sorry. So this is, it's on data.census.gov, and under questions, it's how do I save my results or search?
That's wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our next question comes from Linda. Your line is open.
Yes, I have a few questions related to the B16001 table that shows languages. One question is that I wonder if for the 2010 census there's any plan to actually take, I know that in the past couple of years you've added a few different language groups, and I wonder if those will be available on a city level as well as a county level. And then my second question related to that same table is that there is, I know that you have, for instance, 10 different Indian groups with Chinese as only one language, and I wonder if there's going to be with the 2020 census, if what we can do is see Cantonese and Mandarin and other different Chinese languages as well. Do you know that yet?
I don't. We work with the dissemination, so we're actually at the different end of the process.
Okay.
That's more of the collection. But if you send your information in the chat, or you could send it to sedsi.feedback@census.gov, we'll send you to the right subject matter that could help you with that information about languages.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
The next question comes from Harriet. Your line is open.
Hello. Do you have classes at data.gov? Basic classes, data classes?
On data.census.gov
yes, not exactly scripts of the webinars, but classes, basic classes, short classes.
So we're working on actual kind of courses and tutorials. Right now we just have the webinars that you can access. We have several of them that are recorded under the recorded webinars that you could be able to access them, and hopefully that could help you. And if you still need some additional information, please send an email to our feedback, and we can see how else we could help you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Matt. Your line is open.
Hi, Kanan. Thanks for taking my question. One geography bit I wanted to ask about. Currently on American Fact Finder, you can choose part of an MSA as your geography when it crosses state lines. So, for example, if you wanted to look at just the Maryland portion or just the Virginia portion of the Washington, D.C. metro, will that be a geography option going forward in data.census.gov? I'm in Iowa. We have three MSAs that cross over state lines.
So we're working on that functionality, but it's currently not.
Okay.
But we'll definitely put that down, but it's something we're working towards.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Austin. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you so much. Just a quick question. None of these changes will affect the CPS table creator, correct?
You're right, correct. Right now, I don't know of any plans to that being decommissioned or anything like that. I mean, we'd obviously like to create our own table creator for other data sets and CPS if it ever came in, but right now, no, there's no plans for that.
Of course. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
I show no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right. Angela, if it's okay with you, if there's any other questions, maybe they could just send it to our sedsi.feedback@census.gov and we can answer them from there.
Okay.
Unless you had something right now.
No, no other questions.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for your...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll close the call right after you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And please let us know if you have questions at sedsi.feedback@census.gov. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation in today's conference. Please disconnect at this time.